Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to show you how to land a probe on the Mun. Now I whipped up a small little rocket here, as you can see. I want you to quickly remember that this is going to be in sandbox, and I would recommend watching some other tutorials on how to make a basic lunar probe that you can land on the surface. Then you can use the tips. Oh, I don't know what I was doing there, probably messing on the camera. Anyway, then you can come back to this video to know how to actually land it efficiently. Now, first thing we're going to want to do is, don't do it as fast as I'm doing in the video, I've sped it up, but you want to do a slight gravity turn, as you can see me doing here. Realistically speaking, this is not necessary. This rocket has way more fuel than it needs. In fact, we're going to be arriving at the Mun with more, we'll be circularizing at the Mun with the second stage, mostly because of how light the payload is, but really this is just, yeah. Anyway, we can now stage that first stage there, and we can now coast our way to orbit. Specifically, we're gonna coast our way to our apoapsis. Sorry, it's my first commentary. We'll coast our way to our apoapsis, and then we'll begin burning. I didn't actually realize it at the time, but I did not have that secondary stage of the engine actually, ready for. I didn't have it activated, so you're gonna see me sort of goof. We're gonna see me kind of goof. Of course, I'll get it done. Like, I'll get into orbit, no problem. But I don't really know how I managed to forget it. Anyway, as you can see, it's not that apoapsis is not moving. At first, I thought, oh, well, maybe it's just too heavy, the payload. No, I just forgot to turn it on. Anyway, now we can begin coasting our way to orbit. And honestly, this is just fairly trivial. This is just what you'd usually do. I mean, it's just getting to orbit, really. It's not that difficult. Yeah, I think this is just, fairly, standard here. I'm not gonna speed this up because I feel like you should also see how you get into orbit. Despite there's probably better tutorials, but whatever. Anyway, we are now in orbit, and we can now begin plotting a course for the Mun. Now you want to set the Mun as target, and then you want to go to your descending node, or just wherever is close enough to the Mun. See, you don't want to go on the ascending node in this case, because then you will have to wait a few orbits to actually get an encounter. But we want to get it now in this orbit. So you want to just drag out that maneuver node until those little gray dots sort of appear, and then you can slowly begin kind of edging it toward. At first, I was going for I think like 12,000, but then I realized that isn't really necessary considering the delta V we have. Realistically speaking, actually, why am I even saying that? Realistic. Okay, you know what? Never mind. I'm not gonna cut that out because I want you to know that we all have. Okay, let me just. Anyway, I think you should go for like, I would say go for a height of around like 20,000 something. That's a pretty good height. Maybe like 30,000. Just something that doesn't kill you, okay? Something that doesn't make you crash into the surface is good. And if you haven't and because of the Oberth effect, basically. Okay, let me explain it in simplified terms. The Oberth effect is basically the closer you are to a planet or moon, the less delta V you will need to expend to go somewhere. So, following that, you want to get pretty close to the Mun if you want to get an efficient encounter and circularization. But because we have so much delta V packed in this thing, I really just didn't think we needed it, and we ended up not needing it. So, as you can see, the Mun is over there. What a beautiful boy, beautiful big boy. And we are currently burning for the Mun. Now, as you can see, now the funny thing here is, this is actually a pretty good way of getting a Mun encounter. Just looking, so if you see the Mun on the horizon, and you still don't have maneuver nodes, say you're in Korea and you still haven't unlocked them yet, it's a really good way. A really good way to get to the mun is just waiting until it gets up in the horizon and then burning. You should get a really good encounter that way. I guess not really good, but you should at least get an encounter, which is always nice. Extra science. Anyway, we can now begin plotting our trajectory here. Oh, that's it's a little too much there. You wanna usually I would recommend using thrust limiter here, and I do, but we have so much delta V in this, it's not really that necessary to get a close encounter. Anyway, we can now begin, getting out of the curb and sphere of influence, and oh, there he is. That's the mun, and we are now at the mun, and it's looking pretty nice. So just time more close to periapses. Make sure that your TWR is good. If your TWR isn't, good enough, then, well, you're not really gonna, well, then you probably need to burn a little late, earlier, but considering our TWR is the way it is, this is honestly fine. I'm gonna quickly stage that fairing since that always annoys me, and boom. We now have a circular orbit, and we can now detach that secondary stage. Usually I would, just crash it into the mun surface, but we didn't really have the fuel this time around, so I opted not to. And now we can begin preparation for our actual landing. Now, since we're entering the dark side pretty soon, I would recommend just going a full orbit around. You'll be fine, and then we can coast our way down to the surface. The camera just clipped into the mun. Yeah, okay. By the way, you don't need to worry about losing connection when you're around the mun, since you'll just orbit back. Granted, if you're not in an orbit, in a good orbit, then yeah. So yeah. Basically, okay, sorry. It was just my mom that got in my room. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So now we're gonna begin our descent burn. God damn it, Mom. Anyway, we're gonna begin our descent burn, and we can now, I wouldn't recommend time warping this fast down, since we are still going at a pretty hefty speed. But considering how big our TWR is, I really didn't care. Although by the time you probably begin doing these missions, you probably already have, landed a crew on the mun. Or, I guess, nah. Actually, I think personally you should just keep an eye on your speed, because you want to make sure that you don't crash into the surface and die horribly. Anyway, if you look up at our current distance from the surface, you can see it's 700. It is, and a good way, and what I like to do is, instead of keeping it at sea level, that little gauge there, you can see the little mountains, usually it's blue, and that means it's calculating how far away you are from sea level. I would recommend switching it to, of course, the green, which is the mountains, which just says how far away you are from the surface itself. The closest surface. So I would recommend doing that instead, since that helps out a ton. And we can now begin our burn for landing. Now, because this is so lightweight, you don't need to worry about it too much. I would just recommend keeping it at least above, 10 meters per second. But for this example, I think I got around 6 meters per second. Not exactly the best, but I don't know. I guess it can't all be winners, huh? Anyway, we can now slowly coast our way down, and never mind that. We have SAS. We'll fix it. Our solar panel on the top there could have actually been destroyed there, but thankfully it wasn't. And we can now deploy the solar panel, and we now have a lunar probe on the surface. And I'd like to thank you for watching. If you want to, you can maybe perhaps even subscribing. And I will see you in the next video.